are covering some of our favorite books for self-care days.
Some of these will be happier books that are just good brain candy for us. Other books are just gonna be kind of sadder but more thoughtful and pensive to help us really get through a mood. Or some might just help you learn something in an unexpected way.
Because really, self-care is what you need in that moment. And so sometimes you're gonna want to stare at pretty pictures of food, and other times you want to be distracted with thinking.
Self-care means so many different things, even within an individual.
Yeah. And it's nice to have options. So we're giving to you right now.
We'll start with brain candy. These are the books that, for me, I'm a little embarrassed to read, but I'm gonna read them anyway. But they could also just be books that you can read pretty quickly without being too thinky.
One example here would be books by Shira Glassman. These are super tiny books. I mean, like they're like this thick. They're happily ever after for lesbians with dragons. That's all I got really. They're really fluffy. They have like one issue. It's really not challenging for the issue usually. She has more dense novels, but a good number of them are just simply happily ever after lesbians with dragons.
Who can't get behind that?
Exactly.
So for me, basically anything by Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas Sparks is really well known. He's got tons of movies, so you can read the book and then watch the movie, or vice versa. And they're all pretty easy to get through. You have a good expectation coming in of what's gonna happen. I mean, they're super predictable, and he uses the same pattern in basically every book, but it's kind of nice to know that you know where you're going and just be able to enjoy the journey.
Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko, or Records of a Yokohama Shopping Trip. This is a fairly thorough manga series about an android in a post-apocalyptic world after the end of major human civilization, running a coffee shop and having daily errands.
That sounds really cute.
It's adorable. It's hard to find. Usually you have to find a scanlation group. I haven't really found good physical copies in the United States, but it is incredibly calming and thorough about just the slice of life details. And some entire chapters are just silent, where people are just going through parts of their daily existence. And I just was always amazed by how thoughtful and careful the mangaka was about just everything. And you would not think to fall in love with a book about an android at the end of the world with a coffee shop.
So another one for me is Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. Now hear me out here. It's not the best written. And it's not, you know, an original writing, obviously. This is basically someone took Harry Potter and rewrote it so that Harry was raised by scientists, and is thus just questioning everything about magic and trying to apply the scientific method to whatever is going on at Hogwarts. So the concept is super interesting, and it's pretty hilarious. You might get caught up a little bit on like character development and weird decision making, but overall I found it to be a good read and at least enjoyed it.
I'm giggling because my house was obsessed with it when it came out and was really into it in ways that I can't make public because my spouse would rather never have that see the light of day ever again. But really, it is a really engrossing read, and if you have frustrations with how Rowling took on the science of magic, it will validate some things for you. Terry Pratchett's Discworld! So, most of you have probably heard of the Discworld saga. I don't know what you call it. There's a lot of books ranging all around how people of the city of Ankh-Morpork, for the most part, live their daily lives, and it's not remotely a slice of life. It is bizarre. Death has a horse named Binky, for crying out loud. But while it is recommended to find a recommended reading set, for me at this point I've reread them enough that it's more about the comfort of it. There are characters there that I really admire. There's Lady Sybil, who is a the Duchess of Ankh, who also raises injured dragons and has a sanctuary in her backyard.
Like, a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of really cool themes. It can get a little dark in that there's almost always a social thing to think about, but it's never in your face. It's more, okay, that's cool. There definitely are some dark books, so get the reading list and recommendations if you haven't started on the series. But The Hogfather, always a good read, because it's death as Santa Claus. It's amazing.
That is amazing. So the next section I want to cover is classics and modern literature. And a lot of these are not going to be happy brain candy sort of things. They're going to be a little more serious, right? You got Shakespeare, all the deaths, Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, sometimes you just gotta feel it all out, right? You have all these feelings and you don't necessarily want to just cover them up with joy. So you just grab some classics. And this is also great for social situations because most people have read them either in school or you'll see references to them a lot in media and movies. And so it's nice to just be in the know with this sort of thing and also just use it as a way to let it out. And as far as modern literature goes, Kate Morton is by far my favorite author. She does a lot of historical fiction, and there's like always like a good twist. It's kind of like history and not quite romance, but sometimes maybe romance and mystery, and it's all just entwined and just really wonderfully written. And then there's Brandon Sanderson. Now, I don't know if he really belongs in classics and modern literature, but I could not, in my heart, bring him into brain candy because he's just too wonderful. So, if you haven't checked out Brandon Sanderson, he is a sci-fi writer. I like basically everything he's written. I think if you haven't read anything by him yet, go read Mistborn. He's just very unique when it comes to his magic building system. Did I say he was sci-fi? He's fantasy. Well, he's sci-fi too. Sci-fi and fantasy. He's everything in one. If Brandon Sanderson ever watched this video. Not that he ever will, because he probably doesn't have time, because he's too busy just crapping out books. In a good way. I love you.
Next, we're taking on our childhood classics. For me, that originally was All Creatures Great and Small. I've read it too often. I can literally open the first page and I can tell you the ending of the chapter. So my usual reread nowadays would be Dealing with Dragons, the trilogy, don't read book 4, by Patricia C. Wrede. I should give a massive asterisk in that there are definite issues with how Wrede handles First Nations peoples in her writing, and so I understand this goes into problematic authors. You can read about that online if you want, but the Dealing with Dragons series was really big for me as a kid because Cimmerian is a librarian, a dragons librarian, and it's wonderful.
I always wanted to be a librarian growing up.
Librarians are the coolest.
I would be a dragons librarian. So here's an obvious one. Harry Potter. I mean, almost everyone has read it at this point, and it's definitely worth a reread. So when I was bedridden and basically had the reading level of a 3rd grader, I pulled back out the Harry Potter books and just did my best to get through them. It actually was very difficult at the time, but it was something for me to work on and know what's going to happen and enjoy, and it's not too serious, but I mean, there's just so many lovely things about the series. Gosh, you've got the movies also.
You got options.
You have so many options. And you can like make it extra cozy and like dress up in like a wizard robe or like make some butterbeer. You know, just get really fun with it and enjoy reading while living in the moment. Just to mention a couple more books from childhood. My child loves books. I really enjoy rereading the Unicorns of Balinor series. Ella Enchanted is another good one. I mean, really just reaching out to your inner child and remembering all the things that brought you joy back then, I think will help you find joy now. And good night, Moon, obviously. She loves Fox and Socks, all the Dr. Seuss books, Where the Sidewalk Ends. Addie just wanted to throw those in here.
So, we realized while filming this that there are simply too many books, because we are book geeks. And so this will be part 1 of 2, and part 2 will be coming up, and it'll probably be more serious, because we also like things like field guides. So, with that, we'd love to hear from you peeps in the comments. Are there any books we should be adding to this reading list? Are there any books that you think deserve way more love in the self-care reading world? That would be really awesome to hear about, because I'm always a big fan of new books. Always. And with that, we'll catch you awesome peeps
Next time.